Well, hello and welcome to the City Show. This is kind of different. Normally we're in the studio. I'm Mike McMurray, and this is kind of a first of a series that we'd like to do on 20-mile trips around Lebanon. In other words, for those of you who don't want to travel a long way, but you love interesting things, well, you're going to be fascinated by the many things that surround the Lebanon area about 20 miles out. And we thought the best way to start would be something that many of you have maybe not heard of, and maybe some of you had. And that's called Pyramid Hill here in Hamilton, Ohio. And you're going, Hamilton, Ohio? Absolutely. I'm sitting next to Harry Wilkes, and he's responsible for all of this. This Pyramid Hill started, give us the background. How did it all happen?
Well, I bought the land so I could build my home out in the country. I was living in the city, and I thought, well, you know, it's time for me to move to the country since I was retiring. Well, that was in 1987.
All right.
And I finally bought 40 acres up here after I hiked around all over trying to find the right land. This was old scrub land. It wasn't, you know, there was trees and limbs all over the place, poison ivy, wild grape. I mean, it was just a mess. So the first thing I did, I have to laugh at this every time I think about it. When I first came on the land and after we closed the deal, I bought a chainsaw.
A good investment.
Yeah, a good investment. It was really. So I just started clearing it myself. I wasn't in any hurry. So I went ahead and made a road up to the back end of the land. There were no roads on the land. There wasn't any way to get on the land from the highway except the hike in the beginning.
Right.
And so it just went. And then the neighbors, they would ask me if, well, I'll sell my land, would you like to buy it? And then, or somebody would die. And so I would get the land that way. I ended up starting off with 40 acres. Through the years, I ended up with about 250 acres. I mean, I had a lot of clearing to do, I'll tell you. So anyway, we got a little more mechanized and so forth. So what happened was that it was never intended to be a public, nonprofit park or sculpture. Nothing like that. This was going to be my home. And I had started to build when I got the acreage, I thought, well, I'll just keep going. I'll build a golf course for me, you know, just a private course. I had nothing else to do.
I'm getting envious now.
Yeah, yeah. So after I completed that and a tennis court, I asked some businessmen to come on up and enjoy the park. And they could hike, they could fish in the lakes, about 6 lakes that I built. They could play tennis. They could play a few holes of golf because they only had 8.5 holes completed at that time. And so I invited these fellows up, and they were wealthy businessmen and builders and so forth. And almost, not all of them, almost everyone made me an offer of $100,000 or $125,000 for a piece of the land, about an acre, so they could locate their home here.
Right.
And I was amazed. I thought, my God, I got over $900,000 in offers. I don't want these people here. What am I going to do? And, you know, it wasn't that I was against people. It was that I was into preserving nature. I didn't want everything plowed up into commercial establishments, into subdivisions. I thought, hey, I got a beautiful piece of land here, it turned out to be. And I didn't realize it would turn out to be this beautiful. So one night I was sitting and I thought, well, what if I die? I have 2 daughters. And I thought, well, they would have to sell.
Right.
And all these, you know, these years since '87 and building my home here and everything, and that's another reason I invited them up so they could see the home. And I thought, I got to do something to save this for posterity. This is saving nature the way it was for the future generations. And I thought, well, how can I do that? And I thought, why not locate sculpture on the land with nature, art and nature. And that these big pieces that were in front of skyscrapers in Chicago and New York and Cincinnati, they really shouldn't be downtown where it's so hard. You know, you have to get across the street to see them. They should be out here. And so I went ahead and formed a nonprofit so the land could never be taken.
Right.
And then the state or the city or the federal government, nobody has an interest in this land except the foundation that I started, a nonprofit public foundation, so the public would always have this land and any other land we buy in the meantime, because we do want to add to the park to save some of this natural beauty for the future generations. So that's how it got started. Kind of unusual, but I knew my daughters would have to sell, you know, if I died. And
where are we now? How many acres? Are we still at the 250? Or?
Yeah, we're at 250.
250.
Yeah, but we have idea, the board and the other people, all who serve for nothing. Nobody gets paid. I don't get paid. We have other volunteers. We have some paid people, of course, to maintain the park and to run the office, but not many.
What was your first sculpture?
That piece right down there, Abracadabra, by a famous.
You didn't start out small.
No, I needed something. I needed something big, and I saw this and I liked it, and I personally dealt with the sculptor on this, who was in his 80s at the time.
Really?
That I dealt with him, and I was able to get this piece, and he liked it himself.
Did you get this piece strictly for your own enjoyment, or with all
no.
the thoughts of bringing people in, letting the public come in and see
This
it?
was after I came up with the idea of what I would do with this rather than sell it.
Right.
I thought, we'll make a public park out of it.
Right.
Then the governments can't touch it, and it'll be here for hundreds of years.
Right.
You know, because I'm not going to be here for that. I mean, so I've got to have some way to protect this land.
Is Pyramid Hill the name you gave it, or was it called Pyramid Hill?
No, it's the name I gave him,
Okay.
and I got the idea from the pyramid, which is one of the only things that show outside, since I live in an underground home.
Right.
And the pyramid gives light to the big room underneath. That room underneath itself, just that one room, is 2,500 square feet, just to give you an idea.
And what was the influence? Were you just
I
interested in...
I just got, you know, I looked at different homes, but I wasn't planning on an underground home. I mean, no way, you know, but I saw this ridge that was, that I had cleared on both sides, and the slope on both sides was the same. And I got the idea one day, when I was sitting over near it, and I saw a deer cross it, and it attracted my attention to it. And then I said, oh my God, look at that ridge. Why can't I go in one side and go all the way through and come out the other side? And I said, hey, I think, you know, that sounds great to me. No underground home that I know of ever went through the whole hill and came out the other side. They usually go in and you come out the same way. But I thought, this is great. And then I thought about how am I going to get light down in there? And then I thought, well, I'll get this big pyramid and put it up. I had not been to the big pyramid at the Louvre in Paris until later. Theirs is about twice, but mine's, you know, big, a fairly good pyramid. But the Louvre is bigger, and but I don't think it's quite as nice in that I used different kind of glass, and it's all, you know, heat protection, sun protection, and everything. And it, but anyway, that's what I finally built.
Well, Harry, we're going to take Harry Wilkes's Pyramid Park. We've got a lot to look at and a lot to show you, and this is going to give you an idea why you have to come here. I have been here previous to this, unbeknownst to me until a couple of years ago, and even 2 years later, there's big changes.
Yeah,
but we're going to show you what's going on in this park, and we're going to take a look at some of the things now.
pruning this. We've always got jobs we're doing. Get any government help whatsoever, not from the city, county, or state. Although, 2 weeks ago, guess who shows up? I mean, I knew he was coming, but I didn't know it until about 2 days before, and that was the governor. And he came down, no politicians with him or anything else. He had the highway patrol chauffeuring him, and he spent 3 hours there. He said, I've heard so much about Pyramid Hill, and we had lunch then on the patio out there. And I had a bunch of students at that time, and I told the students, I said, if you want to, the governor doesn't want to, give any public address. He's just here to see the park. But you can come down and I'll explain something to you. And if you want to see the governor and ask him something, I'm sure, as long as it's not political. That piece cost $385,000. And they actually donated that. The new owners were from New York, and they told their resident manager to contact Pyramid Hill Sculpture Park. And they heard about it in New York, and they wanted to remodel the plaza area where it was. So they said, contact Pyramid Hill to see if they would like to have that donated.
Yeah.
No.
Didn't have to think about it too long, did you?
And I sure didn't.
Well, this is obviously a cube, and the sign here says, The Cube, Tony Rosenthal, 1994. And I understand this big, massive piece of steel is easy to turn, and it is. Very, very, one finger. So another interactive part of this park. Well, this was an extra special treat to get a chance to see the inside of Harry Wilkes' home here at Pyramid Park. This is not something the public sees.
That's right.
This is private. This is why you moved here. You built this house here in what year?
I moved in 1982, 1992.
Okay.
When you're up in the 2000s now, you kind of, those other numbers kind of mix you up.
Now the question, who designed this? Did you design
I
this
designed
house?
it, yes. I got the idea sitting over here where there's a lake and a gazebo, and I was looking at this ridge. And the idea just came to me because when I was thinking about a home, I was not thinking about an underground home.
Right.
But I looked at this ridge, which I had recently cleared, and I knew the slope on both sides was the same. So I got the idea sitting over there one night, looking at this ridge. Why couldn't I go in one side and come out the other side, on the other side of that ridge? And that way you could go in the front once you decided where the front door was, and go out the rear. And in the meantime, you could have the whole thing underground and have maybe a source of light, like the pyramid.
A source of light.
Yes.
We're in natural light right now, folks. We are sitting beneath the pyramid. Basically, we're below ground level right here.
Oh, absolutely.
The pyramid is from ground level on up.
That is correct. That is correct.
Had you seen this somewhere else?
No, I haven't seen it at all.
Did you get an architect?
No.
Okay, then here's my next question.
Yeah.
Who was the builder that you handed the plans to?
Well, we got I tried to get the best builder in this area.
Right.
To be the general contractor, and then we got all the subs, and we got all the best ones that I could get, because I knew I didn't want anything, you know, done incorrectly.
Oh, you couldn't do that if
right.
it's underground.
But
right.
the general contractor who I got 3 days before we were to start on this told me, he said, Harry, I can't do it. I said, what? We're starting Monday.
Right.
And he says, I just can't do it. I said, well, we had worked out a contract.
Right.
And I said, it can't be the money, because he had gotten everything was extra. I mean, he got the best contract he could get.
Right.
I mean, which was everything he
Right.
wanted. And he said, no, it's not the money. I said, well, what is it? He said, I cannot sleep at night. Nobody has ever built anything like this.
I can understand his
You know,
feelings.
and he said, I just think about it every night I go to bed. I cannot sleep. I wonder about, you know, the heavy weight on the ceilings, the pyramid. I mean, nobody's ever done anything like this, and the weight would have to be. I said, look, I've had it to an engineer 2 times now, and I told him to beef it up. And look at it, it's not a crack in the ceiling.
No.
I mean, this house will be here for 1,000 years,
Right.
If not longer.
Right.
And so anyway, I couldn't get him back to work, so I went ahead and acted as general contractor.
Well, I'll be darned.
Yeah, I did hire a couple part-time guys that had retired from construction companies, and they were anxious to get back on the job, but they were part-time, and they advised me. 6 months after we started, I thought back on the general contractor saying he couldn't do the work. And I said to myself, oh, thank God he couldn't do the work, because I saved a mint.
Yeah. So it worked better.
Yeah, it worked out great, and I had good subs, and everything was...
This is the living room.
Yes.
2,100 square feet?
2,500.
2,500 square feet?
That's
How big is the house altogether?
Almost 7,000 square feet.
All underground?
All underground and all on one floor.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of natural cooling being underground?
Yes, oh yeah, the wind and sun can't hit your outside walls.
Right.
The only thing it does hit is the garden, which
Right.
is a roof.
Right.
So most of the things are garden up there. I have trees growing. You can see them.
You mentioned 3 layers of glass in the pyramid, one of them being UV glass to help protect the damage from the sun.
Right. You need protection from the sun. You need E-glass for protection from the heat.
Right.
And you have, on the outside, you have mirrored glass. So it has a slight tint to it, but a mirror, so that when the sun is shining and you see the clouds drifting by, you can look at the pyramid and see the clouds and everything drifting by.
Did you ever wonder what Frank Lloyd Wright would think of this home? He would probably have loved it.
Yes, except the ceilings are too high for him.
Yeah, that's right. Everything had
know.
to be low.
Yeah, there's nothing, the ceilings here are, I don't think there's anything less than 10 feet.
Yeah.
The space is all open, as you can see. The dining room is open. The only thing really closed, and it has a big window, is the kitchen. The bedrooms, there's 4 bedrooms and 5 baths. But the bedrooms all have a wall of glass. One wall is completely glass doors,
Right.
so that you can slide them and go out on the patio. On each bedroom goes out on a patio. So you have plenty of light.
And if I come through the front doors, I can walk directly through and into a swimming pool out the back.
Yeah, that's right.
Designed by Harry.
Well, I fooled around with that swimming pool. I had it with a waterfall going into the lake, which is right behind the pool. But I said, by that time, I was a little tired of building. And I said, to heck with it, I'm just going to put in the pool this way, and I went ahead and put it in, and it's been perfect.
You have, your love of artwork and antiquities is shown in the house too, not besides the museum that's on the property.
Right.
You've moved a lot in here. This is maybe the most enormous Persian rug or Asian carpet. I'm not sure what it is, but this carpet is immense.
That's the one that Procter & Gamble wanted for their board of directors room.
And you got it.
And I got it because when the man told me who knew I had it. I bought it at auction, and he called me, a rug dealer, and he said, he said, I'd like to buy that carpet. He said, I could even give you a slight profit. Well, I didn't know that he had already sold that carpet to Procter & Gamble. And when I found it out, I said, oh my God. And he was saying, might get a slight profit. I bet there was a big profit.
I bet there was.
So,
did you have an interior designer, or did you do this too?
no, that's where I started the antiquity collection.
Okay.
Every designer I had scared me to death. And I wasn't in any hurry to get it done, but every designer I had said, oh, wait till you see, till we accessorize your house. And I just said, what's that mean? And they said, oh, you know, lamps, ashtrays, little things, we'll accessorize it beautifully. And it hit me just at that time, gosh, I would like to accessorize.
Right.
I would like to go to Sotheby's and Christie's in New York and get a paddle and hold it up and buy the things that I'm interested in, like the Roman Empire,
Right.
like Alexander the Great, the Greek Empire, the Egyptian culture, the Etruscan culture. These are the things that really interest me. And then I could accessorize my home with real pieces, thousands of years old. And that's what I did for 20 years. And I would put them in here to the house, but we'll see the museum later, and or maybe not later, maybe before. But anyway, we're going to see the museum today too, and everything was transferred into the museum.
This is not something you find at Home Goods, folks. I'm sorry. You may see the fake of that,
Right,
you know, when
right,
they fake
right.
do it, but the artwork above the fireplace is
Right. That mosaic Sotheby's called me one day and said, can we release your name? They want to know who owns that piece. And I said, sure, you're going to release my name. And I said, why do they want to know? And he said, they want to take it on a national tour of Roman art. And I said, they do? I said, well, have them get in touch with me.
Right.
So they contacted me. I said, why do you want that mosaic? I said, it's, you know, what is there about it? And they said, if you look at the face of the man in the mosaic, that is the artist. This was done almost 2,000 years ago.
Right.
And this is the first time these art experts said, we believe that that man, by putting his own face in the work, was the first of the artists to do it later on, because you had Rembrandt, everybody else, the neighbor carrying the sword in the paintings, and,
Right.
and all that was done later on. And here was a man back in Roman times who did mosaic work and put his own face so he would have immortality.
Did you allow them to travel it around the
No,
country?
I was afraid
Yeah.
that I'm afraid they'd damage it.
Right.
So I told them, no, I'd rather have it sit here.
Well, this is a beautiful, beautiful home. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back to Pyramid Hill Park.
Yeah, well, Pyramid Hill Park. And
Pyramid Hill Park. In just a little bit. Stay with us. The museum right now at Pyramid Hill Park, and this is a new building, new museum.
As it is, it's a new museum, and it's done as a replica of a Roman villa.
Okay.
In other words, when I first went to Pompeii, back when I was 30-some years old, I saw these buildings and I thought, oh, someday I'd like to have, if I ever get the money, I would like to have a home built like a Roman villa.
Right.
And of course, I ended up, when I saw the site for the underground home, I built that. But then I thought, before I go, I really ought to build that Roman villa and make a museum out of it, because I was planning on having a museum since I started to collect. So here it is. And you can see the inner garden. You can see the Roman motifs.
How many antiquities do you have in here? And these
Well,
are
there's-
all authentic.
Oh yes, every one of them. And they're all around 2,000 years old. Some are older, like the mummy case behind us, the Egyptian one. That's 3,000 years old. And we have about 100 pieces here, everything original, no black market items, no reproductions. Everything in here was purchased at Sotheby's and Christie's.
By you?
By me for the last 20 years. I go twice a year to New York and see what I can get.
Some of this beautiful sculptures, artwork was in your home.
That's right. When I was collecting it, I put it in my home.
Right.
And it kind of looked like a museum, but I am giving my home to the public when I go. And
what do you imagine in 20, 30 years that home will be used for?
Oh, I would say private meetings could be used for dinners. Mm-hmm. I've had several dinners in there now, and it works really well. Right. The back patio and the front patio could be used for different fundraisers. Sure. And
but it'll stay in the possession of the park.
That's right, but we're not going to let anybody live in it.
Right.
Because
no, I thought maybe the media could stay there.
Yes, oh sure. Well, the media, yeah.
You're right.
But I think people will get. In fact, the Cincinnati Enquirer came up here and did a story on this new museum. Right. And when the story came out, they said, much to my surprise for a Cincinnati paper, they said, this place is much better than the Cincinnati Art Museum's collection of antiquities and better than the Dayton collection of antiquities. So I thought, oh boy, that's wonderful.
Or have you heard from either one of them?
No. I know them, and I'm sure they were surprised it was printed in the paper. But it really is a surprise to most people that all of this very valuable art is right here in the Miami Valley.
When is the park open for the public?
We open, the museum is open weekdays anytime from 8 till 4, and on weekends from 12 to 5.
Now, is there a charge to get in the museum?
No, just to get in the park. But everything in whether you're bringing a picnic, visit this museum or visit the outdoor museum, that's all under the $8 a person charge and $2 for children.
Right, so it's $8 for adults, $2 for children.
And they get everything in the park, unless they want to rent an art cart.
Right.
Now the art carts were the only museum where people can actually rent an art cart and go out and drive on the grass, go up to all the sculptures, go wherever they want to go in their own art cart.
What does it cost to rent an art cart?
Well, it's $15 an hour for 1 hour and $35 for 2 hours.
I'll tell you what, do it. Absolutely do it. We've been using art carts to drive around the park today, and it's invaluable. I have been here before. I was here a couple of years ago. We walked.
Yeah.
I was exhausted.
Yeah, you can't do
Some of those hills are immense.
Right.
And you can drive through. You can drive through in your own car.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's one of the advantages.
Yeah.
We have miles of blacktop road in the park, and you can actually drive through if you want to. Take an art cart, hike, bring a picnic. Oh, there's a lot of things you can do.
Do you recommend people call ahead for reservations for an art cart?
No, but some do.
Okay.
On weekends particularly, but some do call, and it's probably wise to do so. You saw the people that just left from Chicago. The first thing they did is rent an art cart because they knew they were visiting all the museums in the Midwest, down in Louisville, over in Indianapolis, Columbus. They wanted to see Pyramid Hill. Yeah. They came in early this morning and said, we want an art cart right away. They'd heard about it.
Do you have an online information website?
Oh yeah, we have a website, and you can contact us on the website, and or by email, or by telephone.
Yeah, you could Google Pyramid Hill Park and get all the information online. How about people who want to you have weddings here.
Oh,
You have
absolutely.
receptions here. You
Oh.
have class reunions here.
Absolutely, and we have dinners here for, we have class reunions. But weddings are very popular almost every weekend in the summertime. I would say every weekend we have a wedding, at least one.
That's something to schedule ahead of time.
We had 3 weddings on one Saturday last fall.
Right.
Because we have 3 different facilities you can rent for receptions.
Right.
Or for some other affair. And then, of course, you can get married any place in the park if you want to, including the chapel. So it's really,
Now,
you know.
being an attorney by trade, you don't do divorces anymore.
No.
Okay.
Nobody that ever got married here has had one yet.
That's right, and you're not going to allow it to happen
That's right.
one
Yeah.
way or the other. Harry, this is an amazing, amazing place, and I think if you have one disappointment, it's that not everybody knows about it.
That's it, exactly. Yeah, word of mouth is getting around because people come here, they can't believe it.
Yeah.
They just can't believe it. And we hear from them, we get letters from them, we get donations from them.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because they really appreciate what we've done here and what we are continuing to do.
Do you look for volunteers? Do you
Absolutely.
need help
We need volunteers.
to do what?
I'll do everything from being a docent here in the museum.
Right.
We will teach them all about this art. Professor Tuck in Miami, who is a nationally known expert on antiquities, he's the one that will be opening the mummy case, the coffin behind us, in 2 weeks to see what lettering or writing is inside.
Right.
That's going to be an event that'll be held right here. Probably the first coffin, Egyptian coffin outside of Egypt and some bigger cities. I'm sure they haven't opened any in Ohio.
No.
So it's probably the first time.
Well, it's all here in Hamilton, Ohio, and would you ever have envisioned when you started this to be sitting here today talking about the museum, talking about all the things? Was that always in your vision?
No, talking about just to do it. What's the story about the baseball park? If you build it, they'll come.
Exactly.
And he was building it out in a cornfield or
Right.
something. And the same thing applies here. Build it and they will come. We can't afford to buy a lot of advertising because we're a nonprofit. But the word of mouth is terrific. Now, people that have been here, they won't be quiet about it.
No.
They keep talking and saying, you've got to get up there.
Well,
Because we hear it every day.
Yeah, well, you have an absolutely, it's a gem, and it is an unknown, except it's growing and growing and growing.
Right.
We wish you great success with this.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time today, too. I've
Okay.
appreciated it. It was great
Okay.
meeting you.
Well,
I consider myself lucky to do that.
well, I'm glad you enjoy it.
Well, we did. This
Okay.
is Pyramid Hill Park in Hamilton. What you've seen today, you can't, the camera doesn't do it justice. You have to see it for yourself. And it's all family, too. Bring the kids, bring everybody.
Right.
We're going to continue with the city show, and we're going to be back right after this. Stay with us. Wrap up things here at Pyramid Hill Park in Hamilton. It's really on the west side of Hamilton, across the river on Route 128. It is an absolute beautiful place. Got to bring the whole family. It's just gorgeous. I'm standing next to this terracotta warrior. You've heard of the terracotta warriors in China, the 1,000 that they unearthed not too many years ago. Well, Harry Wilkes wanted one of these. He wanted a copy of it, but he didn't want it carved in terracotta because putting it out here in the park, it would disintegrate, it'd fall apart. So he talked to a Chinese gentleman that would be making this sculpture and asked him if he could do it out of granite or some other strong stone that would be weather resistant. The guy told him, well, we can make it out of jade. Well, Harry went, jade? Excuse me. We know it's extremely hard. We know it's weather resistant, but jade is very expensive. He said, well, no, we have a whole mountain of jade behind us, and much of the jade is not used in jewelry because it's not jewelry grade. So Harry went ahead and found out he could afford to do it, and he had this jade terracotta warrior, jade warrior made. Just one of the many, 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 many things that you'll find here. at this beautiful park. We're going to wrap things up. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you get a chance to come out here, do so. Bring the whole family, get married here, bring a picnic, rent a golf cart, which they call the art carts, but it is truly fascinating. But I hope you enjoyed this. This is one of the features of our 20-mile trip around Lebanon. You want to get out of Lebanon? We're going to try to find places like this to talk about in the future. But until next time, thanks for joining us. I'm Mike McMurray. You have a great day.